This is firewood, or at least that's what it usually becomes. This is Doug fir, which is primarily used as firewood or to become framing lumber. Also, anytime I mention Doug fir being framing lumber, some yahoo from around the country will comment and laugh at me and say that Doug fir isn't framing lumber and it's actually white pine or something, and they act like I'm not from the state of Oregon, have a degree from the College of Forestry, and did a video on this topic. So if you're curious, Oregon and Washington provide a huge portion of the country with their framing lumber, which is Doug fir or hemlock, and you can know that because if you look at the stud, it will actually have a DF or an H stamped on it. Fun fact. Anyway, I'm going to attempt to turn this framing lumber into a table base, and here's how I'm going to do it. I recently learned about drawing ellipsi. I learned about drawing this shape, and this is going to be the primary shape for the table base that I'm creating here. And to do this, I drew it, cut it in half, and now I'm just cutting close to the line. I didn't want to go over the line. I'm going to be using this as a template because yes, this is not Doug fir, this is MDF, which does not make great framing lumber. And then I just went nice and slow on this oscillating sander to get right up to the line, so I had a pretty close to perfect ellipse. I attached that template with some double-side tape, came in with my flush trim bit, set the bearing right against that template, and then just cut around that ellipse shape. And in order to make this as consistent as possible, I did one side, then I took that same template, put it on the other side, and this enabled me to just then connect the two sides. I feel like a bandsaw is that tool that you don't really need, but should probably be the first one that you buy after you buy all the other tools that you do need. Because yeah, you could maybe do this with a handsaw, it'd be really awkward and take forever, but on a bandsaw, it took me about a minute, and I just genuinely love using the bandsaw. But after I got the bulk of it removed, I came in with my biggest router bit that I have with a flush trim bearing, and this is just to get me as close as possible on both ends, so then I could just finish it off with the belt sander, which I'm gonna do here. The goal that I had in mind when I started this build was just to really find a unique way to highlight that awesome Doug fir end grain, and that is the only cool part. That is the only good thing that Doug fir has to offer. It's got that really striking, really remarkable high contrast end grain, and I thought by doing this kind of reverse quad book match could be a really interesting way to highlight it. But this design isn't really inspired from anything directly, or at least not consciously anyway. This is just an idea that I had, and I had a little bit of extra time. I had a bunch of extra tabletops from this build that I was doing, so I thought, let's have some fun. I had the fir, let's see if we can make something cool, and I really don't know if I'm gonna like it in the end, but we'll give it a shot. Another way that I like to experiment and have a little bit of fun and maybe improve my woodworking skill is by playing around with the design on the underside of these table bases. They always sit a little flatter if you can hollow out that center section, so I like to make fun designs, and I still need a name for this one though. I think it looks cool, I just don't know what to call it. When it came time to attach the tabletop to the table base, I wanted to ensure I had everything dialed in, so I maxed out my drill press just to ensure an absolutely perfect 90-degree hole, added the threaded insert again, making sure it was perfectly 90 degrees, but the moment of truth is here to make sure this all lined up just right.
Fuck.
Okay, that didn't exactly work as I had planned, so here's my alternative, here's my idea, and I drilled the hole out slightly oversized, added a little bit of tape to the underside of the threaded insert to make sure none of this extra thick marine epoxy gets in there, and I added the thread insert back in, but again, it's loose by design, because what I want to do is I'm going to attach the tabletop and get the table exactly where it needs to be, and then that epoxy will cure and hopefully keep everything lined up just right. But again, this is all kind of theoretical. We'll see how it works here. I think it actually works. For the type of table it is, I think it's okay. I'm gonna go over here. And one thing I know about commenters is they're always very understanding about the furniture I make and are not critical at all. I really like the way this fir looks right now, but wood needs to be finished, so what I'm doing is I'm applying what's called invisible oil, and what it is, it's not really invisible, because if I put just a straight clear coat, it turns kind of a really yellowy amber look. This invisible oil has just enough white in it that it gives the illusion that there's no finish on it at all, and I think it looks great on this fir. After that invisible oil had cured, I added some N3 Nano Finish just to bump up the sheen and the contrast slightly to really make that base pop. And the tops that I'm using for this are a denim and epoxy top. I made 10 different ones, but only 2 of them really fit on this base. I know it's unique, it's probably not for everybody, but let me know what you think.